Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Gav Major and this is Amateur Ports. Amateur Ports is your gameplay submissions with my commentary, and today we have a submission from YTBrandonABC, and he is playing in the German premium tier 7 cruiser, the Prinz Eugen, which is available for 750,000 global XP. Now this is a tier 6 and 7 game of domination on estuary. On the enemy team we have an Akazuki, a Shores, a Maiku in a division with a Scharnhorst, and a Targo, a Nagato, a Vanguard, a Massachusetts and an Alabama. On the friendly team we have a Fantasta, Maiku, a Flint, Brandon in the Prinz Eugen, a Gneisner, a Colorado, a Vanguard, and a division consisting of a Valavistok and an Iowa. So he spawned in the centre of this map, and as he says in his commentary of his live stream, he's going to play in the centre here initially, just to make sure it's locked down, so that the enemy destroyers can't kind of suck up into the vacuum that happens in this map sometimes, but also means that he can get a bit of a crossfire onto the other flanks while using island cover. So as he alludes in his live stream, on this map it's quite common for the majority of the action to happen on the east and western flanks, usually at the Delta and Alpha objective, regardless whether it's domination or capture the base. And what this kind of sometimes creates is there ends up being a bit of a vacuum in the centres. The ships in the centre kind of spread out towards the flanks. And this makes an opening for destroyers to race up the middle and sometimes, in some cases, actually capture the base or get the cap in the centre on the other team. So looking at the minimap, you'll notice that 3 enemy ships have been spotted on the right and the left side, and only 2 enemy ships have been spotted in the centre. But all of these are the cruisers and battleships. That means that the Akazuki on the enemy team is located in the centre. So by hanging around in the centre, he's done the right call. He's just making sure that it's locked down. So it means if the Akazuki does try and come through, he's got to deal with Brandon. So this game, as I've already said, it was taken from one of Brandon's live streams. It was submitted by him, and he has given me his permission to use it. So I'd like to say thank you very much, Brandon. So, as the start of this game, it starts off a little bit slow. I think the first half of the game, not much really happens for Brandon. So while we're waiting for things to really start to kick off, we're going to take a little bit of a look into the Prinz Eugen. Well, the Prinz Eugen is the 3rd member of the Admiral Hipper class heavy cruisers of the Kriegsmarine. She was laid down in 1936, launched in 1938, and was commissioned in 1940. Now, the Prinz Eugen, she does have a sister in game, and that is the Hipper, which is the Tech Tree Tier 7 German cruiser. But the main difference is as you can see with the Prinz Eugen, she does come with that main battery reload booster, which reduces the main battery reload time by 50% for a duration of time. Note that he does have 2, it only comes with 1 base. He is taking fully packed as a legendary trait. Now, ironically, she's actually the 3rd Hipper class cruiser in game. Obviously, we do have the Seedlitz, which is the tier 5 German carrier, also known as the Weiser. So we do have 3 hulls of the 5 total hulls of the Hipper class cruisers represented in game. So Prinz Eugen, probably most famous, firstly, for Operation Reinberg, where she escorted the German battleship Bismarck in a converse raiding mission. So before the Bismarck went out, obviously the Gneisner and the Scharnhorst were actually out doing converse raiding, and they had returned to the port of Brest and were currently being refitted and stuff like that, following some minor damages, and also considering they were within proximity of RAF bases, they were coming under a bit of a bombing attack. So when the Bismarck was all warmed up and ready to go, the Prinz Eugen was one of the very few actual other heavy units that was available and capable to go out with the Bismarck, and so she was assigned to that. So obviously she was there present during the engagement with the Hood and the Prince of Wales, and did actually get some hits. I think she got some hits on the Prince of Wales. I can't remember about the Hood. But yeah, she served there, and then after the sink in the Hood, she was managed to be successfully detached from the Bismarck on the 2nd attempt, when the British cruisers and the Prince of Wales were shadowing the German task force. Now, she didn't really get to do too much converse raiding after her disengagement with the Bismarck, because she ended up, first of all, having to get fuel. Quite a lot of people like to point out that the Germans only left Norway with half tanks of fuel, and the reason being was out in the North Atlantic were a number of German tankers disguised as neutral vessels, which were there to supply the Bismarck and the Prinz Eugen on their mission. So Prinz Eugen actually did rendezvous with two of these tankers and take on fuel. However, she was suffering from engine issues. This is something that's going to plague the Prinz Eugen throughout her life. She comes with diesel combustion engines, and she doesn't quite meet the treaty limits. The Anglo-German treaty limits for the cruisers was 10,000 tons, and the Prinz Eugen and the Admiral Hipper class came in at 16,000 tons. Basically, due to this innovative new technology of using diesel engines and things like that, and so obviously, cutting edge technology, introducing diesel engines on ships very early on in the late 30s. However, it's very new technology. It's gonna have issues, and these issues did plague a number of German ships, including the Prinz Eugen. Now, the Prinz Eugen, having returned to Brest, she then partook in the Channel Dash. This is where the Scharnhorst Gneisenau and the Prinz Eugen made the dash through the English Channel to get back to Germany. Now, this was a successful mission. So I guess you could say it was a victory for Germany. They were able to get their capital vessels back into the Baltic and out of range of majority of RF units at the time. However, it's also maybe a strategic loss because now they don't have such easy access to the North Atlantic. I think one of the things that the British were really concerned about was Scharnhorst, Gneisenau and Prinz Eugen having very easy access to the North Atlantic, very easy for them to just get out and do a bit and then get back. Once they're up in Baltics, they're further away. They've got to try and break out very much like the Bismarck and the Prinz Eugen did, and the British can picket line that a lot easier. She then, after some repairs and a bit of a refit, she did end up trying to get into Norway to carry out like operations there, like denial operations, very much like the Scharnhorst did in their later life. However, she was actually torpedoed by a British submarine and had her stern completely blown off. During this incident, I believe somewhere in the region of about 50 sailors were killed, unfortunately, on the Prinz Eugen. So she was then towed back to the Baltic, where she was then repaired, and then she started serving as part of the Baltic Fleet, in which she initially started service as a fleet training ship. I guess this kind of shows the step back situation that the Kriegsmarine was having to take, because obviously they weren't really engaging so much in naval combat out in the Atlantic Ocean with their heavy units, so she became more of a training vessel. And then she started serving as a bombardment ship, shelling Soviet forces. She did try to make some breakouts to Norway with the Scharnhorst, but unfortunately these were called off after being spotted on numerous occasions. So throughout the rest of the war, she served as a bombardment ship serving against the Soviets. At one point, she actually ends up colliding with a German light cruiser, almost cutting it in half. I can't quite spot the name, but then she ends up being one of the very few German vessels that survive World War II, and she ends up being awarded to the United States as a war prize via lottery. And now, having been awarded, she was renamed USS Prinz Eugen, obviously, as an unclassified miscellaneous vessel, and she was then sent to the United States with a part German, part American crew. Once being received in America, some parts of the technology were stripped off, things like the radar, and some of the guns were also taken off for testing. And once the German crew left, they found that the Americans couldn't actually keep the engines running. So with the propulsion systems basically failing, the Americans decided that the best use for this ship was to nuke her. So she became a nuclear bomb target as part of Operations Crossroads, where they basically tested the effectiveness of nuclear bombs against surface vessels. Rightio, we're into the meat and vegetables of the game. He's managed to get a kill on a Targo, but yeah, I think he only did like 2,000 damage to it. Akazuki come around the corner, and he's using his main battery reload booster and high explosives to try and put the Akazuki down, launching one of his port launchers to see if he can catch the Akazuki out. Now the Akazuki does have quite poor maneuverability, so it looks like we should get a torpedo hit. Very nice. That's kill number 2. However, Massachusetts come around the corner. Massachusetts, 16-inch guns. That is got overmatch written all over it. So prepare yourself for a world of pain. He's just fired his stern turret, and now he's fired A and B turrets at him, and that's taken a big chunk of his HP away. However, we have 2 torpedo launchers on that starboard side, and it's quite easy to predict that the Massachusetts is going to start reversing up. So we're going to get those torpedo launchers away. Still in high explosives, which is interesting, but it is kind of nose on. And looks like we are making a lovely contact with the Massachusetts, knocking her out, and that's kill number 3 secured. That just leaves 1 enemy cruiser on the enemy team, and I believe it is the Shores. So going to have to try and engage her. Now this would be quite an interesting moment, maybe to potentially launch one of those catapult fighters to see if you can get any spotting potential on the enemy. But there she is. Now, considering the range, I think you're spotting her before she can spot you, judging by the way that the island doesn't completely cut off the line of sight between the two because it's quite low. Volley of high explosives out, while the Shores is returning with a volley of armor piercing, which isn't too bad because of the armor of the Prinz Eugen getting a fire on the Shores. And it looks like that actually forced the Shores to use her damage control party. Spotted again. And looks like she's trying to maybe go broadside on. So switching to armor piercing, correct choice to make, I think, there. And remember that sometimes the best thing you can do in this game is just have a little bit of patience. Now, the Shores has only got a 4-kilometer torpedo range, so no real concern about torpedoes as yet. That looks broadside enough to me. A and B turrets fired. 2 Citadels getting kill number 4. Very nice. Good job, Brandon. So here we are at the end screen, and Brandon's been able to do 105,000 damage from 62 hits on target and 7 torpedoes, getting 3 fires, 4 floodings and 2 citadels, getting a capture assist as well, and killing 4 targets. Also 24 secondary hits. Those secondaries weren't slacking during that game. So all in all, it's been quite an eventful game. Moving on to the team screen, and he's been able to come top his team with a ship XP of 2,583, putting him well clear of the next best player on the team. So all in all, a jolly good show. Going on to the common screen, he's been able to walk away with a profit of 438,000 credits, and that is with a premium account and an epic credit booster, which improves his credit earning by 40%. That profit is after a ship service cost of 143,000 credits. So with a tier 7 premium, the ship service cost is about the same. However, the amount of credits that they actually earn is a lot higher. So that is one of the benefits of the Prinz Eugen over the Hipper, I guess you could say. Obviously, with the Prinz Eugen, you can swap the main battery reload booster out for the sonar. So you can always have it as if it's exactly like a Hipper. I guess it's just down to a personal choice. Well, I'd say thank you very much, Brandon, for sending this in. It's much obliged, and I hope everyone has enjoyed it. If you have, feel free to give the video a thumbs up. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe, and if you already are subscribed, let's say thank you very much. Down in the description is the commander build, which I haven't mentioned during this video, but it is down there if you want to refer to it, along with the ship modules used by Brandon during this submission. Also down there is an email address for the channel if you want to send any of your own game captures, and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel on Patreon, as it is a non-monetized channel. Until next time, I'm the Galloping Major, and back to the port.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the Galloping Major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there, you fellows, unless you want me to run you down. I guess this is the life. Now, hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the Galloping Major.